Mexico's economy isn't collapsing, but it's not really growing either. And that's what most people don't understand. You have rising wages, strong trade with US and millions of people working, yet growth is stuck around 1%. So what's actually holding it back? In this conversation, we break down what's really going on beneath the surface and why this may not be temporary at all. So let's get into it.
All right. Yes, we're talking money. Today we've got someone who's making finance in Mexico way easier to understand, especially if you're living here or thinking about it. He's the voice of Seeking Financial Liberties on YouTube, and he talks about money, of course, investing, real life finance tips for expats. I love it when you're here, Vin Maru. Welcome.
Thank you.
Doing?
Again, good.
Hey, Vin, you don't mind that on my Facebook post I called you a financial wizard, do you?
I don't know what a wizard.
He's just an expert.
Knowledgeable.
Okay.
It's a passion. I just love following it.
Yeah.
I've done it for over 20, 25 years
Okay.
now, so.
See,
But you're a little more humble than I am.
He's also a good cook. Well, Vin Maru. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about Mexico's long-term economic growth. You sent me an article. Wow, you really. I was doing some homework. I'm like, oh my gosh, this article just goes on and on and on and on forever. It was long, but very interesting.
Yeah.
And so, tell me a little bit about, why it's declining. The growth in Mexico.
There's certain sectors that are declining. It's pretty much flat, is what it is, and the publication. It's from Rice University, the Baker Institute put it together, and it's pretty extensive, had lots of charts in there talking about why the growth has been so stagnant here in Mexico. And it seems it started a few years ago to really decline. Mm-hmm. And so I think you had this COVID rush that provided some foreign direct investment that came in, but that's actually declined over the last couple of years. The numbers, I was always bullish on Mexico's outlook, and I still am to a certain degree, but looking at the actual numbers that they shared, you kind of see it is stagnating for several reasons, and we can get into those if you'd like.
Well, tell me a couple.
Sure. So first of all, you're starting to see certain industries like the automotive sector declining. Heavy manufacturing has really declined over the last year. Granted, we've had these tariff issues, so that was one of the big ones that I saw. But productivity has actually been on the decline, even though wages have risen. Mm-hmm. So even in job growth numbers. So when we looked at the job growth numbers, there's a segment that's actually in the real economy and then the underground economy. So it seems like the jobs that have actually been created are ones that aren't really registered with the Social Security system. So they're unregistered jobs. So that's actually been increasing significantly. So it seems, and it actually obviously takes away from tax revenues for the government. And so that was something interesting. And then the next statistic was kind of the productivity per labor unit has actually been on the decline. So overall, I mean, Mexico, the economy has kind of gone stagnant in a way, but yet inflation is they report at 3 to 4% now. There's some sectors in that, like food and rent and all that, or energy costs that have gone up.
Well, do you think that Mexico can realistically reduce informality without hurting small businesses?
It would be hard to, I think. I think it's just, it seems like that's the way small businesses go. And the growth is actually still, in terms of industries, there's a lot of growth happening in the small businesses, but they're not going to go enter the formal market. And
Do you have an opinion on that or a prediction?
I would have said that it would make sense for them to go into the formal economy if they want to expand their businesses. Because in order to do that, you have to have actual financial numbers to show people, or banks if you need access to credit. But when you're kind of operating this cash-based business, let's say, really you're just left out of financial markets altogether.
Right.
And, there's a big push for digital banking in Mexico, and that's been going on in Latin America in general, which is why I'm really keen on the fintech sector. Capital Bank being one that's in that space. But you see that trend happen in Canada and the U.S. as well.
Okay.
So the more you're involved in the regulated financial system, providing actual facts and numbers about your business, the easier it becomes to get access to credit to expand.
Sure.
I think these small businesses don't want to expand because there's liabilities in hiring employees and taking on additional overheads. So that informal economy, I just think they're happy with the cash they make, pretty much all under the table.
Yeah.
They sustain themselves off of it. And
Well, based on the question that she asked you, is like kind of like walking a tightrope a little bit, right? I mean,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a fine line, right?
So what incentives could make informal businesses transition to formal operations, do you think?
Wow. I mean, I don't know if they would even want to consider it. And unless they actually want to really grow their business and they see demand for it, then you kind of have to get the financial numbers in
Right.
order. And this is the challenge I see with a lot of real estate projects, and especially businesses that are for sale here. And I looked at that model, doing brokerage for businesses, but a lot of these businesses can't show proper financial statements. Or you're kind of buying the valuation of that business based on your expectations of your earnings versus the actual numbers that can be shown. And it's tough. Like, as a small business owner here in Mexico, it does make sense to get access to grow your business, but then you're going to have to transition from that informal to the formal economy more and more, which now increases overheads and costs.
Right. And so you talked about the minimum wage, it's more now, but it's not matching productivity. So are wage increases helping or hurting Mexico's competitiveness long term?
I think they have to raise the rates here because they're just, it's not really sustainable for someone to live off of 300 pesos a day. That's just getting by. So as the government, over the last 4 or 5 years, we spoke about this a few shows ago, that they were increasing the minimum rates, and these are pretty big increases, like 7, 8, 10% in a year, and that's been going on for a few years. But nonetheless, the productivity hasn't grown as a result, and I don't even think there has been a net benefit to the government in terms of additional tax revenues.
Yeah, Vin, I think the correlation of the minimum wage, like if you're living in a small town in the middle of Mexico, the cost of living is obviously going to be different than it would be in a town like this, like Vallarta, So, it may correlate there. It doesn't really translate here as much, right?
Well, funny enough, though, I still see a lot of people that are in the hospitality industry here. They really don't make a high base salary.
Right.
It's really all commissions and tips that they
Yeah.
work off of. And I don't think any of that's going to get ever reported.
And that's
in
true.
the
That's
system.
true in most countries, though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
even the U.S. or Canada. I mean, your basic wage is not going to be, very much. You're living off tips mostly, right? Yeah.
Well, I think it's more here in Mexico than in Canada and
Right,
US. Like
right.
in Canada and US, I mean, you work with like the waiters or maybe something like that, but you're not really tipping cabbies or
Sure. Yeah.
just other things where here you would, especially grocery stores, you're going to check out someone's bag and that they don't get paid, so you leave them a little tip.
That's the difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think in terms of on the margin, these people that are working here, very minimal or just totally commission based, that's how they sustain themselves. I don't see that going away, which is why this whole push for digital banking and tracking is going to be so hard to do in Mexico. I mean, everyone's fearful for it, and I keep talking about it, that it's coming, and it will continue to come. But that's only going to affect that 50% of the formal economy, I think.
50%. Wow. And so on the article, I saw that, the relationship that Mexico has with the U.S., in economy. I know we're highly dependent on them. Is diversification away from the U.S. realistic in the near future, or?
I think it's a necessity. And it really comes down to is you're seeing a lot of the with what Trump's doing with tariffs globally, Mexico actually, ironically, is on the low end of charges for tariffs. It's China, a lot of Asian countries, India that and some European countries that have higher rates for tariffs with U.S. Mexico's on the low end. But that being said, we're going to start to see the trade negotiations come up for the USMCA this summer. I think it's actually going to go smoother for Mexico and the U.S. versus Canada and the U.S. I mean, there's a lot of butting heads going on with
the U.S. and Canada.
Yeah.
T-MEC talks are heating up.
That's a whole other show, though.
Yeah. They're coming up April 20th, right? They're going to be talking here in Mexico, in Mexico City. So which industries in Mexico have the most, to gain or lose, talking about the T-MEC?
So from that study, it was showing the auto industry has been on the decline, but tech has been on the incline. So whether it's computers or tech-related products, medical products are being manufactured here. Because I think what happened was a lot of the manufacturing for medical devices out of Germany ended up coming into Mexico.
From Germany, wow.
Yeah. Germany was one of the bigger industries for healthcare products. And so and even recent announcement with Claudia Sheinbaum talking about universal health care for all Mexicans. I think that's an industry that should do well. In terms of the T-MEC negotiations, it's still cheaper to produce in Mexico than it is in the U.S. That's not going to go away anytime soon. So there is an advantage to it. Now, Trump can try to put these tariffs in place, but I don't suspect it'll be as effective as what he thinks it will be. What I would rather see Mexico do is actually continue to expand and build a manufacturing base in various industries, but look at other regions. I mean, the rest of Latin America is still continuing to grow. So if you take a lot of the manufacturing from China and move it to Mexico, which had been a trend for a while, that foreign direct investment's kind of slowed down, which is another reason for that cause of the slow growth rate here in Mexico.
Now, could this change the rules for foreign investment here in Mexico, of course?
With the trade agreement? It might, in terms of capital flow from the U.S. into Mexico, depending on it. I think it's actually going to be a fairly progressive, amicable trade agreement between Canada or between the U.S. and Mexico. Again, Canada will be a different thing altogether. Mexico still has, even with the slow growth rate and the low productivity, there's still a lot of advantages that Mexico has over the U.S. So I would think, focus on growing the industries that have lots of potential. And the demographics here in Mexico favor for continued growth, even though it's slow right now. At some point, slow performance or slow growth will eventually change. And I think there's a lot of push for education here in Mexico, moving more towards the tech sector. I think that's.
Now, do you think the immigration of expats is slowing down, or is it because it's been exploding over the last 10 years?
Yeah, it has. I think immigration for expats will be more the retirees and the baby boomers that are looking for, or Gen X even, that are going to look for a better lifestyle in their retirement, with possibly cheaper cost, but it's not, cities like this, and now it's almost marginal on savings. So
yeah, it depends on what you're looking at. Some there's not a huge price difference in a lot of areas, but in some areas there still is.
Yeah, and the data still shows that people from Canada, the U.S.
Believe me, housing is still way more affordable here.
Oh yeah,
it is. And the data is still showing there's a lot of exodus out of these Western nations. But again, I don't think it would be someone who's in their 20 or 30s.
It's not necessarily all Mexico, though. A lot of people are going to Vietnam and Thailand and some of the Asian countries as well. Because the cost of living there is even less than here.
It's better. All right. Well, I like it. I love it. It's always so interesting. Thank you so much, Vin, for, breaking everything down so that we can actually
always learn something when he comes in the hood over here. Yeah.
If you want to better understand how money works in Mexico, especially as an expat, check out Seeking Financial Liberties on YouTube. At the end of the day, it's not just about making money, it's about knowing how to play the game. And this guy, he knows how to play it.
So when you step back, Mexico's economy isn't really slowing down. it's operating within a set of constraints, where you have activity, trade, and growth on the surface, but underneath, productivity, investment, and infrastructure are actually what determines how far it can go. And until those pieces change, you're likely to see more of the same, steady but limited growth. If you're interested in how these evolve, especially around investment, energy, and capital flows, I'll be breaking it down in further videos. And if you enjoyed this discussion with Jesse and Bruce, I highly suggest you watch our other video about how AI and digital finance is changing Mexico's landscape. The link is below. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon.